Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. Cold day here in Tucson, but we're thinking about those people in the Los Angeles area affected by these horrible wildfires, and joined by a Tucson, really a guy who grew up here, found his voice here. He's going to school out in USC, so there are some ties there, but I saw him at a jam session the other week, and it was really fun to see somebody who was really searching for their sound, their voice, and on their path and purpose in life. Cameron Davidson, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
I appreciate that, Jake. That's very nice. That means a lot.
That's the way I feel, man.
Yeah.
I
appreciate being here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great. You know, Woody Shaw is a favorite of mine. Kind of an unsung guy, and there was a session he was on that he was the band leader on, called Song of Songs, and he came into the session with all the music in his head. And even if you had your druthers, or maybe this has already gone down, if you were a leader of a band and you're recording something, an album, do you come in with the material all in your head? And I guess with the more to the point is, what do you believe about hitting on that first or second take when it's the freshest?
I mean, personally, I think that you have to. I think that one has to have a really refined idea of exactly what it is they want to play when they go into the studio. If you want to ensure that you're getting the best product that you can put out. I know that a lot of those guys would have even their solos, somewhat rehearsed when they go into the studio. Not one for one, but they'd have some licks or whatever. Or they'd have some stuff that they intended on playing just because they know it sounds good, and they want to put their best foot forward when they record. Because at the end of the day, one's got to make a living to feed their family. As much as we love doing this for the artistry, and as much as we love connecting with people, you want to make sure that you're putting out a high quality product as best as you can. In terms of having it all in one's head, I with the people that I play with, at least, you got to have charts, otherwise.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a big problem of mine, okay? And you can push back any way you want. You're obviously a bright cat.
Yeah, of course.
And you've been on the bandstand. Coltrane and McCoy would not consider a gig if there were music stands. That would be a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Okay, guys like Woody Shaw from that generation,
right.
The language was so embedded, not just bebop, astral music, astral play music, third stream music, classical music. They had that vocabulary so embedded that their solos were actually off the cuff. It's been in more later years where cats have come in and tried to get their licks together so they have some material for the session.
Right.
So I've often had a problem with seeing, Century Room's a good example. Brilliant cats.
Great club.
Great club. A fucking great club.
Yeah.
But young cats. They don't need the music stands.
Yeah.
That's where you go off. Where are you at in that evolution? Because I don't, like I said, it's easy for me as a journalist, but Train and McCoy, if they saw music stands, that's a rehearsal. That's not a gig.
I can understand that philosophy, and I agree,
Why do you agree, though?
Well, because, it's more polished, from a, spectator standpoint on one hand, and that's part of it. But more importantly, you can get more into the music if you're not absorbed in following the chart.
Explain about when did you have an opportunity to fully be absorbed in it? Like, give me an example of a band or a time when you were out on a limb, and you weren't afraid to go on a limb. You just didn't want to fall.
Yeah.
All right? But you had to go fishing at some point because, you know what? It's not about being polished. Again, this is the Jake Feinberg show.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is I don't care about going to the Hollywood Bowl and seeing a performance. I want to see you blowing hard.
Yeah.
And not with no premeditation.
Yeah.
Where it just comes from your soul. Can you talk about an early experience in your career where you were able to kind of learn that kind of jargon?
Well, I've always had a real love for improvisation. That's always been where I've, thrived and where that's where I've lived, but I can remember my first, experiences with being at the level, maybe around senior year of high school where I could play a solo off the cuff and have it sound pretty good. Prior to that, I'd have to work out a solo, in order for it to be at a performance caliber. Because I went to Tucson Jazz Institute here, which is pretty intensive for
It's a very unique, beautiful thing.
For a high school music program in Tucson, Arizona. It's
Bryce
pretty
Winston,
intensive.
Scott Black, those kids,
Yeah, they're serious cats.
Very serious. No joke.
Back in the day, we had the likes of Mr. Doug Titeback, who did not fuck around in that regard. He would, the band had to sound good. Yeah.
This is so important. This is what I want you to talk to younger cats about. Not that you're an elder.
Sure.
What does it mean? What are the antecedents to playing off the cuff? The vocabulary has to be embedded.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of get out of your thinking mind. How do you have a mantra? How have you learned to sidestep that and allow information to come through you from the heavens?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I think it's about trying to play off the other musicians on stage.
Listening.
Exactly. Listening and trusting them to give you material to play off of, and trusting, and I struggle with that personally. I'm a big talker. I've got a lot of vocabulary. I've got a lot of things that I want to say musically. So I have a lot of these worked out licks, yes, but also just I'm thinking up little melodies or whatever. It's very it's very spiritual for me. It's very outside of the boundaries of normal thinking. I just kind of
Absolutely.
like,
That's what I want to talk about.
yeah, I just kind of like let myself, sort of go to that place where the only thing that really matters in that moment is the music. I just think of, ding, 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 ding. Like, what can I play over that that's going to sound good? I want to play something that's grooving and something that makes the audience, experience the joy that I feel when I am, when I'm playing, because it's just wonderful. I think it's a really special thing that we get to do. And you have to refine that, obviously.
Well, no, this is the Academy talking.
Right.
Clearly, you going to Tucson Magnet High.
Right.
You haven't
Go Badgers.
You haven't grown up with a silver spoon in your mouth. Like this has been a street scholar approach. But it comes down to this idea of where it's instantaneous note selection. And so you have to, I remember Terry Haggerty from the Sons of Champlin, which is, if you don't know that band, at the late 60s, the heaviest band out of the Bay Area, from the Dead, the Sly Stone, all that stuff.
Sure, I'll have to check it out.
So Haggerty told me, he goes, you have to, and they were doing a lot of LSD, but the point is that, he goes, you'd have to subscribe to the Socratic method of, you must know what you don't know. Because people, when he would come off the bandstand, and they'd say, how do you do that? He said, I have no idea. Okay, and does that happen to you quite often?
I would say so, yeah.
Where it's, because if it's too rehearsed, then I'm not sure what the purpose of playing music is. To me, it's more about saying, I don't know how that happened, but I'm okay with that too.
Well, I mean, part of it is the more rehearsed component of it is it comes in two, primary. Like for me, I got to make a living, So I've been playing a lot of pop gigs.
You're a smart cat. No, you got to sing for your supper. No, totally. I'm talking about from a jazz aesthetic. Yeah. That's really what I'm talking. I should have made that clear. In a pop gig, you're not going off and playing fucking Lee Morgan.
That's right. Yeah, that's something I've kind of had to learn because my impulse is to be a little bit more free and a little bit more expressive. But focusing on that aspect.
No, actually, I think, as a non-musician, I'm still working on that in my own life, yeah. Where it's just like, you can't bring, just because of what you love, there are certain situations that don't call for that.
Yeah.
Especially ones that pay. They pay,
I'm the exact same way. It's like learning to be able to write in a specific style, even if I don't like that style, so that I can, pay my rent,
Sing
which
for your
is
supper,
wicked expensive in Los Angeles.
Out of control.
Yeah. But talking about what I really love, and playing jazz.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think that one does have to have a certain level of technical mastery on their instrument as well as knowledge of the vocabulary. I didn't. This is the way that I was taught by Bryce and other cats at Tucson Jazz Institute. Is that in order to be able to be incredible, one first must be credible. You have to have some licks under your fingers that sound good, and then you can start taking them to the next level. You can start applying them into other contexts. And if you're doing it right, you're not thinking about the licks. You're not thinking about you're just thinking about what the music calls for at a given time. For me at least.
Was that instantaneous, or did that take a while to develop? Obviously you have to get those licks, but I love what you're talking about. It's like a tree. It's like a branch. It grows, then another branch grows, then the leaves grow.
Yeah.
And you keep taking it from that original source, and it's just you were never satisfied with relying on a simple bag of licks.
Yeah.
Right. You wanted to stretch out.
Yeah. Most of the cats that I play with and that are really interested in being great in that regard. That's how they are. Not even interested in being great because that's not what it's about.
It's just striving for excellence.
I actually really dislike the way that Whiplash, not to go on a little tangent, but I dislike the way that it portrays the pursuit of, greatness in music, because the pursuit of greatness, I think, should be about, the pursuit of like being able to play at the highest level one can, in order to facilitate their creativity. It's like wanting to sound as good as the greats, because you love the music and because you want to replicate and you want to innovate. You want to be able to have the chops and the, know-how and the creativity to be able to, play stuff that people are, inspired by and that people connect with. You know, it's not about being better than other people like this stupid movie portrays it as, you know, like, oh, I gotta be, you know, I have to be on top of the game. You know, it's about being at
That
the
breaks
top
my
of
heart,
one's
because that's-
own game, you know?
Well, it's very well articulated. It breaks my heart. That's why I don't watch movies.
Yeah.
Because you know what? That's just emblematic of our time. The minute somebody says, well, who's better?
Right.
It's like, it's not a sporting event.
Right.
This is about, like, especially human music. It's a team sport. And
Yeah.
you know, at the optimal level, you're one living, breathing organism, moving as one.
Yeah.
One sound.
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly.
Just, you know, and this is the way Dizzy talked. I mean, can you talk about Night in Tunisia?
Sure.
Only because I was listening to, that song was written in 41. Dizzy, it continues. I'm listening to Hamp Hawes in a trio, non-trumpet.
Yeah.
And it's this black aesthetic. It's African American art form.
Yeah.
What is your concept of jazz? How would you, because me and you could walk down the street and get 20 different answers to that word. Now, for me, it's tension and release, pulse and dynamics, and spiritual burn. So it's more adjectives.
Yeah.
But as far being a musician, is jazz knowing the American songbook? Is jazz being able to bebop it? Or is jazz just listening and breathing as one unit?
It's a difficult question to answer because I feel like there's such a formulaic kind of approach to jazz in the US, and worldwide, of course, not of course. I've met some European cats, and
That's
Korean
also
cats,
because
but-
every academy has a jazz program now.
Right.
There's been you have to. That's your challenge, Davidson. Is just the idea of conforming to getting to doing what you have to do, making the connections, but never losing your own identity, because it's become a little bit of an assembly line, and I think that's why I gravitated to you, because you're off the line, which is a good thing.
I appreciate that. I mean, I strive to be that way. I strive to be my own person.
Well, the
and,
Europeans are like that too. They're more in
Yeah.
touch with the heart, fire, burn.
Yeah, that's actually been one of my observations. Working with some Spanish cats and some French cats and some Korean cats as well.
Soul, man.
Yeah, they're much more in touch with the music, and because a lot of them, they're much more driven, and they're much more. They resemble much more, I would say, musicians of old. In that they have a much more personal connection with the music, and they don't see it as a pursuit of excellence. They don't see it as like a pursuit of great, but rather as a way of getting in touch with themselves and just doing something that they truly love.
How about the idea what you said before? Replicate and innovate.
Yeah.
The innovation is what's driving them.
Yeah, 100%.
Even though there's not necessarily money behind that.
Right,
It's
because
for
they
the
just want to
for the
play-
soul. That's
Yeah.
right. Oh man.
Yeah, I entirely agree. And there are, it's not like there aren't people like that here in the States, but
Tons.
Yeah.
But it's listen. Let's be clear. The art form of jazz, when it was a popular music, was consumed in Europe and Japan. Otherwise, those cats really would not have had careers. It's never been supported in the country where the music was birthed.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting thing. And I wonder, as you go into this new semester, we're dealing in incredibly deep heavy gravitational times. Some people would consider it dystopic. You're still on the path of music, which ultimately is the most liberating path to be on. Where do you feel like you need to grow the most, push yourself the most in order to grow, not as a competition or to be the best, but so that you can continue to stay on your path and still be inspired? I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
You have to be inspired
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And this inspires me doing this kind of stuff.
Sure.
Because that some of these sound bites are so brilliant. They go out, other people might be having a kind of a low day. They see them, all of a sudden they're smiling, they pick up the instrument. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, it's the boomerang, it's the caromming off thing.
Yeah.
It's the ricochet effect.
Yeah.
So where do you need to grow the most, in your professional career, in your playing and personally?
I think a big part of it is that I need to be able to take myself a little bit more seriously, in that I have things to contribute to, the world and to music, and I should be a little bit. Maybe I should make a website and things like that. You know, start. I guess putting down my roots and you know, becoming a bit more of a like, you know, entrenched person, because you know, of course I'm going to keep trying to get better and listening and playing and all that, but in order to, you know, parlay that into excuse me, into, you know, actually being able to influence and, you know, not influence, I guess, but in order to be able to play at a higher level and, you know,
it's called it's what a musician has to do today.
Yeah.
In order to market themselves.
Branding. Yeah, I got to start making some stupid TikToks, you know.
We're taking care of it. No. Yeah. I want to be, this is just popped into my head. You were part of this Monterey Jazz Festival a couple years ago?
Gen.
Even though it was a few years ago, maybe it was a year or two ago, I don't know how long ago it was, but the idea is, how many of those cats ascribed to the Whiplash School, or are you going to tell me an inspirational story that most of the cats that you played with were locked into the gypsy soul aspect of Burn music?
I actually think that the majority of the cats I encountered in those honor bands were more interested in the music, as, you know, the same wasn't true, you know, at all state festivals. The same wasn't necessarily true, you know, isn't necessarily true at most music schools, you know, necessarily. But in those honor bands, I think they did a pretty solid job. I think that, you know, they had such high caliber musician judges, you know, I think they did a good job of selecting cats who are really in love with the music as a, you know, as a self-expression, you know, and they had a very, you know, personal and like divine connection with, you know, playing music. And, you know, they were disciplined and they were interested in the, you know, in the academia aspect of it to the degree that they needed to be.
Right.
You know, but they weren't, you know, that wasn't their primary.
Right. The divine connection was there.
Yeah.
What was the coolest thing from that memory? I mean, were there charts? I mean, or was there a free component to the music? Can you talk about like how you knew, without, because you didn't spend tons of time with all these cats, how you knew that they were aligned with in the spirit of the music? I
mean, they just loved it. You know, they just ate.
You were having a ball. Having a ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody there was really, really in love with the idea.
This is great.
They loved their instrument. You know, they loved their. You know, we had jam sessions virtually every day. I remember at National Youth Orchestra. This was in the height of COVID. We'd have jam sessions every single day, even though we weren't allowed to be hanging out in one small space indoors. We would have outdoor jam sessions, and we didn't have access to drums, and the drummers were playing brushes on their folders, and it sounded great.
It's like Joe Morello on the beach during those UN tours doing Brubeck.
Because everyone was just so stoked to be around all of these other really, really dedicated musicians.
But not amped up Whiplash musicians.
No.
You know, not like, you know, those cats. That's the point. Is that the point I'm trying to make is, in order to strive for greatness and to achieve a level of excellence. Chops or being the best in and of itself will never get you there.
Yeah.
You have to have the soul.
Yeah.
Where's your soul at these days?
Ooh, that's a
keep
tough
your
question.
soul together, man.
Yeah.
We all got to keep our soul together.
Yeah.
I was gonna but beyond the marketing, because it's unrealistic. 8 hats for musicians to wear. It's absurd. You do the best you can.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, like, musically, what are you most excited about going back to school?
I love writing. I'm going to be taking a film scoring class this semester. I'm studying with the likes of Vince Mendoza, who's a really renowned cat in the writing game. He's got a lot of his own really, really incredible, you know, orchestrated albums. And he also writes for Joni Mitchell and whomever else, you know. Real serious.
I mean, what's so cosmic about this, man, is that my dear brother, Arthur Roses, who was my camp counselor when I was 9.5 years old in 1987 in upstate New York, is a decorated independent filmmaker.
Yeah.
And he's out working with Mark Ruffalo right now on a project 6 months in L.A., and his son, Leo, is in the film school. So I got to hook you guys up.
Yeah.
They will love you, and it's going to be a sick... Because Arthur he knows the cat you're talking. Arthur is one of the baddest cats I've ever met. And like I said, he borrowed my flashlight one night when he was like 15. I was 8. He lost it, and then he got me a new one.
Oh, that's sweet.
But at the end of the day, that was, and to this day, I was going to the city to hang with him, and Scatico meant so much to me. Anyway, Leo is someone you need to. I can't believe you're taking film scoring is. Music is about as bad as the Bill Contis and the Henry Mancini's and the David Axel, that's Lalo Schifrin, all those cats, man. Bad dudes, man.
Yeah, I've been getting really into musicals recently as well.
Wow.
I think that they're actually kind of underrated. Why
do you say that?
Mostly by the hardline, music connoisseur kind of folks. A lot of my buddies, for instance, if I'm like, I'm really into musicals. I'm like, those are cheesy,
Right.
But they're actually really great.
No. You can go below the cheese.
Yeah, it's true. They do have a lot of tongue-in-cheek components to them.
No, but it's up to you to use the imagination to spin out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
But on a musical level,
they're
musical, brilliant.
Yeah.
They're really clever. They're like, modern operas, in the way that they have motifs that recur throughout it, and they do a lot of cool stuff chordally, they do a lot of clever stuff. I don't know. I like them a lot. And I think that long form, music is really a dying art form.
Say that one more time.
Long form music,
it's been dead for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm still keeping it. It's on a respirator.
I know.
But it's Al Di Meola in our second interview. He's like, outside of maybe 3 people, nobody's going to see that shit.
Yeah, and concept albums. Who the hell's making any concept albums anymore? That's an unfortunate.
Dude, you're breaking my freaking heart right now, man. You're right. All the cats that I've talked to, Chuck Rainey, Lee Sklar, they used to get together with their friends and listen to concept albums.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is this. Everything. We're just sort of. The cycles of life, they come around. So if you can bring that stuff that has been forgotten into the recent future, then you're doing really good, cutting edge shit.
That's what I've been thinking about that for a while, is how I can play a role in shaping our musical landscape for the better. Because I'm not, I don't know. I don't want to look at the past with rose-colored glasses. I've had this thought recently that people say, music used to be better back in the day, and then play examples of the best music from back in the day, and then, contrast it with the worst contemporary music, the contemporary music that, is just like the bubblegum pop of the past that was forgotten and that is no longer getting any, is no longer seeing the light of the day.
Right.
So I don't want to say that music now is not filled with, talented, awesome, brilliant people making clever stuff. But there are a few, for instance, the death of, acoustic instruments in, mainstream music breaks my freaking heart. I listen to, cheesy songs from the 70s, and they still feature 15 different talented musicians who excelled at their instruments, coming up with creative, original stuff, on the spot.
Well, no, and actually there was always an acoustic rhythm guitar.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, there was, and the music has gotten sonically way too loud.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do a whole other set, man.
Yeah.
When are you heading back?
To LA, you mean?
Yeah.
In a couple days, Friday.
All right, well, listen, we'll pick this up on the phone when you get back.
Sure, I'd like that.
Cameron Davidson, man, such an honor to connect with you. Thanks for healing me, bro.
Oh, appreciate it. Pleasure talking.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.